Tamara Banks, Jason Broughton,
Here.
Ruby Bravo, Joe Brito, Justin Chenault, Rupert Farley,
Here.
David Fouth, Denise Flatley, Robert Fogg, Glenn Goldsmith, Larry Gross, Rebecca Herron,
Here.
Yolanda Hipsky, Michael Hoyt, Sandra DeGroot, David McLaughlin, Tolanda Parker,
Here.
Ken Poe, James Powell, Rodney Thomas, Alan Watkins,
Here.
Clint Wells, Timothy Welsh,
Here.
and Kevin Wilkinson.
Here.
Right, and Chair, we have a quorum.
Just barely. Okay, if we can move on to number three, agenda, that's the approval of this agenda. If we can have a motion on this.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, we got.
I'll second.
two, and Tim, second. Is there any discussion? Okay, then all those in favor,
Aye.
okay, that's approved. Going on to number 4 on the agenda, this is asking for the approval of the minutes from the October 8th CTAC meeting.
So Rupert, I approve the approval of the minutes. I move to approval of the minutes. Sorry.
Rupert just does it all. I'll second.
Tim seconds it. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that is. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm sorry. Anytime you want to just jump right in, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, for number 5 on the agenda, public comments. We have comments and questions from members of the public. They are welcome at this time. Staff will also read comments submitted by the public prior to the meeting. Is there anyone present who would like to make any public comment? Okay, do we have anything that we've received? This is a first. Okay, going on to number 6, then the VDOT and transit report. Anyone had issues that they'd like to bring forward this time, please do so.
It kind of has something that I mentioned that the pipeline study surveys. So it is showing on the screen, Google, just VDOT pipeline, it should come up as one of the first things that come up. And there's the survey section that you can click on Fredericksburg, and that'll show all of them. I believe there are 4 of them are in the region, one in the city, one in Wisconsin, and 2 in Stafford. And I believe those are all going to be open for about 2 weeks. Feel free to read it.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, since there's no other problems going on in our entire region, that's awesome. Moving on to number 7, our action and discussion items, starting with 7A. We need to discuss the calendar for 2026. Dr. Rudett?
Yes, so at their last meeting, the policy committee approved their 2026 calendar. For them, they particularly have and often a conflict for the 3rd Monday in January and February. They have elected to move their meeting up to the 2nd Monday. And so right now on our current calendar, we have all of the 2nd Wednesdays highlighted in orange on there. We do not have any specific conflicts. I don't think we have any meetings on Valentine's Day or any other holiday that we do actually have a conflict in November that we would actually have to delay due to Veterans Day to the 18th. And as a result, if this committee wishes to keep the standard meeting schedule, it would be as it appears. However, if the committee wishes to move any of its meetings earlier 1 week so that they could ensure that you have comment before any of the policy committee meetings, you would have to take action to identify those days. And those would be January, February, and November of 2026. Traditionally, y'all prefer to have those before, but until the policy committee sets those dates, we can't tell you exactly when they would meet. So right now is how it is currently by default, but you'll have to take action if you want to move any of those dates ahead. So do you have any questions?
I have a comment.
Yes.
The only fault that I've found with the schedule, with this calendar, is the fact that you got two policy committee meetings that are a different color. And it's explained why, but if you want to scan the calendar to see where policy's meeting, it looks like January and February. At first glance, there's no meeting. So I would recommend making them all the same. What color is that? Purple, magenta,
Yeah,
something?
pink.
Pink, okay. So I think it would be more user friendly to have them all pink.
Okay.
Okay. Aside from that, great calendar.
Okay.
If I may, I've always found it to be somewhat of an advantage having our meetings prior to when the policy committee has met. But again, like Dr. Wright said, that cause us to have to modify January, February, and November if we were to do that. You know, to hear from you all, what you consider about potentially doing that before we even start talking about dates.
I'd be okay with moving up in front of the policy committee on those those.
Any other opinions?
Need a motion for that?
I guess.
I make a motion to accept the calendar, except for the 3 months, and move it forward a week ahead of the policy.
So that would be, you'll be meeting on the first Wednesday for the month of January, February, and November.
Correct.
November, we would have to find a different date because that's that. So we'd have to do. Do we want to stick with just on Wednesdays at that one instance if we were to do this
Let's just meet on the board.
Yeah, that would be the.
on the fourth?
Yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation, basically, we're saying that we would move the dates to January 7th, to February 4th, and November 4th. Okay, is there a second for Tim's motion?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Any other further discussion? And then let's vote. All those in favor of modifying the calendar? Okay. I think we don't need to raise hands. I think we had enough right there to support that. Okay. All right. So we will try to calendar reprinted then.
Yeah, I'll make it available at the next meeting and or send it out to our members actually earlier. So
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to go to Eugene. Eugene's going to talk to us about his coffees with transportation plan.
Hello, everybody. All right. Just like Chair Watkins said, I'm here to talk about coffee with a planner today. But before we do that, I want to go over why we're presenting this concept to you at all. It is in order to get your input. So we can hold our initial sort of answers and reactions to these questions until the very end. But I want these ideas to kind of be brewing in the back of your head while we're going through the slides. So, there we go. So let's go through the 5 W's of coffee with a planner: the what, the why, the who, the where, and when. So what is coffee with a planner? Coffee with a planner is an event that FAMPO is planning on hosting throughout the next year in 2026. The idea is that we're inviting members of the public to come out and have coffee with us, just to talk about the transportation planning process, chat about, you know, stuff of that nature, what they're interested in, where they're seeing problems in the transportation network. The idea is to have a sort of fun, casual atmosphere outside of the office, kind of this principle of going to the public instead of the public coming to us. I also want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be coffee with a planner. It can be pizza with a planner. It can be ice cream with a planner. This will be relevant later on in the slides. So why are we doing coffee with a planner? For the last year or so, we've been working on researching and finding out ways that other MPOs are reaching out to the communities and people that we're not reaching out to. And we have several different approaches that we'd like to try throughout the next year. And coffee with a planner is sort of the first leg of this process. Who is Coffee with a Planner? It is going to be interested FAMPO staff. We are also going to invite one transportation planner from the respective jurisdiction that we're in to tag along with us and also to answer questions and have coffee with the public as well. Just to cover our bases, already we get several emails a day about or several emails a month, let's not be too different, about questions that we necessarily can't necessarily answer. So just to cover our bases, having someone else from the locality would be interesting. So where is Coffee with a Planner? These venues should be accessible to, near, or frequented by the underserved communities that we are trying to reach. The way that we've been pinpointing out where these locations might be is by using the 2050 LRTP focus area for all traditionally underserved populations map, which is here. We've also started using the Virginia DEQ's Virginia EJ screen GIS tool over here. This map considers all traditionally underserved populations, so that includes people, populations with disabilities, residents who are older than 65. The DEQ map specifically focuses on communities of color and low income. We've also been using anecdotal evidence as well, just because there are some points about okay, well, we know that Fredericksburg Library, a lot of people who are homeless spend time there during the day. You're not going to see that on a map, but you are going to be able to communicate that in person. These are the locations that we pinpointed for Fredericksburg, Pennsylvania, and Stafford. This is an ever-growing list. Again, we would love your input on what locations we should add. And when is Coffee with a Planner? So FAMPO would like to do this ideally twice a year during the off season in the winter and off season during the summer. Each time in each jurisdiction, so that's going to be about 6 times in the year. So we're thinking so far during the working week on a Wednesday or a Tuesday around lunchtime from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is kind of our trickiest point. Yes, Rupert.
Where's the Community Connections Expo?
The Community Connections Expo is at the Fredericksburg Convention Center. That is hosted by FAHAS every year. So that area is accessible by bus. There's also pretty amazing there. We went there last year to do an information table, just outright, but we saw several other organizations doing things like giving free haircuts or providing meals, stuff like that. So we figured that might be a good venue for us to host at as well. Yeah, so when is Coffee with a Planner, and that's our final W, bringing it back around to the beginning. We want your input. So we have been talking about the subjects that we might be approached with regularly when we go to certain areas, and kind of figuring out what topics do we need to be well versed in and research beforehand before we go to these locations. We've been considering what events FAMPO can host at, like mentioned earlier with the Community Connections Expo. When it comes to the question of where is Coffee with a Planner, it doesn't have to just be like a library or a cafe that we sit at. It can be at a larger event that we're also hanging out at and giving coffee to people too. Other locations that we should consider for hosting Coffee with a Planner, and days and times that would yield the most participation for Coffee with a Planner. If there are any initial reactions, answers, questions to these ideas, then I'm happy to have them and take note. If not, then you have my contact information and I'm available. Yes, Rupert.
You know of another locality that's tried this?
No, I didn't.
Other city?
No. Wait, as in in the
Coffee with a Planner, has anybody else done that?
Well, actually, I wrote on my notes right here, shout out to John ? And the reason why is because John is the reason to bring up that MPO of the Land and Sky.
My previous MPO used to host similar events or partner with organizations to do it. So for example, one of our Coffee with the Transportation Planner events was hosted by the local chapter, the AARP. And they had their director basically compile a list and folks could ask questions directly to us. So this is supposed to be a little bit more of a different interaction, a little bit more long form where say a member of the community can come have a multiple minute long conversation with us and back and forth so that it isn't just a 3-minute public comment or fill out your comment sheet. It's like if somebody really wants to come there and talk to us for 10, 15 plus minutes, you have a couple of planners there and they can do that, as well as fill more general answers, particularly ahead of time, even for folks who can't be there in person, but they can have like their representative, like the AARP would actually bring in a small list. We'll kind of answer those and we'll provide the answers, but also just talk about it. In some cases, it could be like, what is the process of going around and getting either the sidewalk fixed or improved in front of the area? What are the options if you find yourself going from a one car household to a 0-car household? Kind of what resources and options were available. So it was really kind of a very open format that it was normally whatever host organization was inviting us out there to do was kind of the lead up to the topics that we were kind of prepared for. So I did a lot of the transportation demand management. So I would go to those that kind of had that, what resources are there to people in the community. We're trying to carpool, which was a novel concept. It wasn't as organized as it was here, but that was something that was available. So we would normally try to pair the right staff member with the questions that we were expecting. So yes, this is done in other NPOs. It can have a very different flavor depending on which ones, but really what the core is, it allows members of the community that are there to have a longer conversation than a 3-minute comment or a comment card provides. So think about it as a deeper dive into some of the community's comments or concerns.
My only comment is that they're Wednesdays from 11 to 1, so anybody that's working, anyone they're not going to be there. So you're really not going to get the input, I think, that you deserve. I would just respectfully suggest that you may want to find, at least in each jurisdiction, being able to have one like on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon where somebody that's working 9 to 5 or whatever hours, Monday through Friday, can have access and get that information.
Yeah.
Well, to that end, maybe do it on a Sunday, seeing if there's a church. Because, I mean, partnering, there's always a level of community investment at that level. Seems like that's what partnership, you'd have a captive audience on the outside and you would be a destination as well.
No, yeah, Life Point Church has got 1,000 people every hour for 3 hours or something. Fredericksburg Fair for the week or like a day. Belvedere's Harvest Festival, the Farmers Market, high school football games. I mean, I'm looking where we get.
Where are people? And a good cross section of people.
Yep, Lowe's Garden Center on Mother's Day. I'm trying to think of all the places I avoid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just set up in the middle of a Walmart parking lot.
I wonder what kind of things you would tell these people there, because to be honest with you, the reason I was late tonight is because I was in the parking lot down at Massaponax coming here, and that's that and a number of other locations make it to where as a traffic engineer and as a citizen of Spotsylvania County, it makes me think that the planners, both for Spotsylvania County and the region, have literally failed completely in the overall transportation network for this area. And they have, because we have bottlenecks here that are tremendous, such as the South Point area. And it's going to get much worse in the next 10 years. Because every project that we have down there that we need now, they're telling us we don't have the money for. And Spotsylvania County has used over 200 million in bond money. We're using and using and using bond money to try to fund as many VDOT projects as we can. And still, the projects are doubling in price about every 3 or 4 years. And we just can't catch up. And part of it is because it wasn't planned ahead of time. The development was allowed by the planning department in the county to develop. And the roads weren't built when they were needed, and now we're so far behind. Because we're bleeding so badly that we need help from somebody. And people that talked to me about it said, what are you guys gonna do about it? I said, well, right now, we need more money and we don't have it. And to put into these projects. And so it makes me wonder, what kind of help can you tell people when they ask you, what are you planners gonna do about the situations that we have out here today?
There is an option of transportation authority.
Amen. I was gonna say the same.
That's what?
An option of transportation authority. Stafford has transportation impact fees. Consider getting your legislators together to put something in the General Assembly to try to get transportation impact fees for Spotsy. Now, I just came here from 17. 17 was backed up all the way from Target all the way to the Falmouth intersection. I don't know what, there's no plans for widening that 4-lane area of 17.
There's no possible way to do that, actually, especially.
They'd have to take out businesses on one side.
And especially when you get right towards Route 1 because of the embankments. I mean, it's in the past. Eugene, one of the things I wondered about possible is besides the FAMPO staff and planners being there, would it be beneficial to actually have other representatives? Well, for example, for the county or the city, if any of the transportation planners from those jurisdictions would be there at the same time, they would probably be able to offer their input and answer questions that maybe even might be more difficult for transportation planners here. It would also be wonderful to have representatives from the boards as well. So if you had a representative from Stafford, Spotsylvania, and the city, on the city council or something, that would also be very, very helpful. I did wonder how you would potentially go about advertising these meetings that would take place.
We'd be advertising them likely in the typical way that we've been advertising our meetings so far, such as the river crossing and the Complete Streets workshops, mainly going through social media, press releases, sending the information through our mailing list to our committees as well. So ideally, because we're going to be going into specific communities as well, beginning to build those connections with churches or like several like businesses that we'll be hosting at should also help us improve our advertising. But yeah, pretty traditional methods, avenues of advertising as far as we know.
Should also include both the city and the county supervisors meeting.
Yeah, of course.
Speak up for people to attend.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think one of the crucial parts is the afterwards, after you've actually had the meetings and the input that you get from people to make sure that that gets reported out.
Mm-hmm.
And Eugene,
Great
please don't take it that I'm against your program. I think it's a great program. I just don't want to see hung out there to dry. But a bunch of people like me complaining, why haven't you done something about it before now? You know?
Well, yeah, that's why it's good to have this conversation and to know that that could happen and to begin preparing.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because people complain to me about it all the time about why'd y'all let it get this way?
Oh, yeah, no, I do information tables. They complain to me too. It's bad. It's so bad.
Just as an idea, to kind of save your sanity.
Yeah.
Put together a fact sheet. Honestly, just in my life, one fact sheet save a lot of headache.
And also maybe you know what topics you're available to discuss.
There's gonna be probably things brought up that we don't have an answer to, and then that person's gonna say something back.
Yeah, somebody comes in and says, I asked them a question
And
and
they
they,
never responded.
Yeah.
Well, that's potentially where CTAC could come into play by attending these meetings as well, especially, if we can get a representative from our jurisdictions to show up at that particular meeting.
you volunteering.
Oh, being retired, so much time. And that would be, again, only if it's from 11 to 1, that would, it's possible for most people.
I mean, that was fairly common in the other NPO that we would either like city or jurisdiction staff, or that members of the various committees would be kind of a partner organization. We often use partnerships through our committees to then open up the venue and items. So like the partnership with the AARP wasn't by accident. They were on the Greenway committee. So it was like, hey, you're on this, do this, let's simplify and kind of come together on a couple of items.
And with the point to the times as well, it was suggested to go that instead of doing one session that's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., we sort of split it up into 2 in a day. So hosting from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then opening it back up again from maybe 5 to 7, so we can hit an evening crowd. Can I get a temperature check on?
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing I was thinking is, I'm so sorry, that, maybe making sure we have a calendar of the things that, the meetings that open to the public.
Mhm.
So then they know where to go to speak.
The only thing that I would say about the weekday solution, I think breaking it up like that's a fantastic idea, but you have the exhaustion factor. Right, so like someone's at work all day long and then they're like, oh wait, now I have to go here and I have to go to this thing. And it's like going to a parent teacher conference, like, it's just exhausting. So again, I think the weekend idea, at least one weekend thing, it allows people some bandwidth and some headspace.
Our concern was that because I believe FXB Go doesn't run on weekends, so that would mean that people who don't have access to cars wouldn't be able to attend. But I also see how inevitably we will have to go to an area where FXB Go does not run, and doing a weekend day for that that's a great.
Yeah, I was just seeing an opportunity here to do a little public education, but I doubt if any of the planners are going to want to do it. Because your natural response, to me, the natural response to people complaining about how we've screwed up so badly is to say, yeah, we screwed up. We're using 1950s transportation ideas that didn't work in 1950s, and they still don't work, and we're still trying to do it because that's what the counties keep asking us to do. So what we need is people like you. I mean, like you could say this to the customer. People like you go to your representatives and say, hey, you got to stop screwing up like this. We got to start doing sustainable transportation planning. We need to have people in DC authorize us to have congestion pricing, and also people in Richmond to allow impact fees to pay for the transit and transportation problems instead of sticking the taxpayers with it. So if you could communicate stuff like that at these meetings, I think it'd be great. But I don't expect you guys to be doing that sort of thing, because you might get a target attached to your back, to get fired. But I like the idea of being able to do that if you could get away with it.
I mean, that is one of the points of having a partnership with those on these citizens groups, because y'all are appointed to kind of lobby for specific decisions or bring that up. So we might not be able to say, go beat down the door of your legislature, but y'all sure can. So
Hey, I wish you luck, because I've been talking transportation for decades, And most of the times when I get somebody into a conversation, their eyes glaze over and they start looking for the next exit. So, good luck.
Appreciate it. Right, any further questions, comments?
The problem I've seen with the public involvement, people that support projects don't show up. People that are against them will show up in force, and that's the big problem I see. It's hard to get people to show up to support a project.
Gotta start somewhere, so.
You just described the American election.
All right, if no further comments, then thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Again, my contact is up there. If you have any further comments, questions, concerns, anything, send me an email, give me a call. We'll hang out, we'll chat. It'll be fun. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to 7C with Lita telling us all this new information about the complete streets and outreach.
Yes. Okay. So just to start off, I presented, I think the second group I presented to about complete streets. So since then, I've gone to quite a few other groups, not only all the FAMPO committees, but some other area stakeholders, and presented the same things you have already seen, but got some new feedback from those groups. So this just summarizes that feedback. I first went to the Fredericksburg Pathways Committee, which essentially works on bike pedestrian infrastructure in the city. And feedback from them included emphasizing the importance and focusing on intersections in our complete streets plan, and considering safety for bicycles and pedestrians there. In addition, they really, I feel like we're taken with the crash data map, but had recommended segmenting the data further. And I just wanted to show that I have done that now. So if you come back and visit this, you can see now it's broken up into bicycle crashes or the diamond shaped and circle crashes or the pedestrians. Just as another lens to analyze the data, seeing if there's any hotspots for one mode over the other, etc. But that was just a suggestion from them. And also thinking about how motorized micromobility, so scooters, even e-bikes, how do those fit into complete streets, and how does slugging or carpooling, different commuter types fit into our complete streets plan? They just said that those should be a part of it, should be considered. I also went to the Public Transportation Advisory Board for the region, and from there I got feedback that some findings from the community health assessment, including just like physical health in the region. And again, and in that health assessment, they kind of made some links to transportation, but going to that document to get some more information that is relevant to complete streets and we can incorporate in this plan as well. Additionally, someone asked if we'd consider tourism for complete streets, and I guess how tourists might be coming in. Are they biking around the region? Are they taking the bus? Do they need those facilities? Just another thing, another more feedback from a stakeholder that I'm sharing with you now. At the Disability Resource Center, we again, the importance of intersections and planning for safe intersections was really emphasized. And not only safe, but just accessible, where the condition of curb ramps can really be a barrier for people trying to get into the street and cross the street. Additionally, there's just a medical transportation need that was really identified there, and people were bringing up. And I know that this committee is actually, you've got a presentation on that, talked about it a bit. So other people are also talking about it and had drawn the connection to complete streets there, wanting just alternative ways to get to medical appointments. So that's about all the input from the stakeholders. Right now, we're in our phase 2. Phase 1, existing conditions. That's about what I presented to you all in September. Since then, I've been compiling planned projects for the region and have this new map that includes those. So it has the existing infrastructure and planned infrastructure. And from there, we can really see, okay, what gaps are still left unaddressed and what new projects might fit those gaps. So it really works the same as the existing conditions map from before. There's just some more layers over in the layer panel that you can come up to.
That, I'm sorry. Larry.
Yes.
Click back a little bit. I was just trying, you clicked through it super quick.
Oh, yeah.
The legend. No,
Oh,
you are.
legend. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. On-street bicycle. Is that like marked bike superhighways, like the on-street, like big bike thing, or is that there just happens to be bicycles there?
No, yeah, I would say what this has ended up being in town, there's a couple of on-street bicycle, and that's, you'll see the pavement markings
Right.
on the road.
On the asphalt,
On
right?
the asphalt.
Yeah. Okay.
And then these are also federal or like battle, I think this is Lee Drive, which is like Fredericksburg Battlefield. And while there's no markings on the pavement, there's definitely signs up saying share the road.
Right.
And also a lot of bikes are out there. And in the city's plan, that's what it's called for their future on-street bicycle, whether that's a bike boulevard or a share or whatever term or however it ends up
Sure.
expressing itself. But yeah, I think like minimal infrastructure, it's on the street. Signage.
And it's just making people aware that there are going to be people on two wheels without them.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, coming down here, this is where most of the projects are, and they're all turned off right now, but we can just turn this on and see where our planned shared use paths, new shared use paths, where the red is already funded and the green is just a conceptual thing. Again, and this is, yes, just been working with planning staff from the localities to get this list together.
That's cool.
Yes, and you know, all of these planned sidewalks, where are those?
What's the time range on implementation?
Right, so that's actually, thank you for asking that question, because that's something, kind of part of the next step. Yes, what gaps still exist, but also figuring out, okay, within these, planned, a lot of them are pretty long range, very conceptual, there's no funding on them. I don't even know if you can get, like, zoom in much for a design beyond a line on a map. But of these conceptual projects, what should the priority be? Which one, where is the highest need right now that, you know, should start working on that one before we do a lower need?
So I know I'm just going to be interrupting you. I'm sorry. So obviously funding is an issue on this. So I came from an area that had a massive cycling infrastructure, multi-use path infrastructure. I know a lot. I mean, they have entire organizations that are built basically on stuff. What kind of work is being done with that, or is that all just kind of happening here and y'all get to it if you can? I mean, I've heard varied things about where grants go to die around here. Someone writes a grant and it ends up getting allocated anywhere or somewhere else. But I mean, what's being pursued? Because we can't rely on Richmond for everything. So.
I will say I have been doing some research on other areas to like see, I think what you're talking about organizations that are built around this sort of thing.
Yes.
You're seeing how some of this infrastructure does successfully get off the ground in other places in Virginia. And you know, what are they not doing? What are they doing? What opportunities are there? I think how it's been going, and anyone who knows more than me can correct me on this, is really locality led when they do take initiative.
Oh, okay.
Please. Oh,
Of course.
Great.
We have $57 million worth of new like shared use parts funded, and VDOT has got them all in varying degrees of construction. So some of them are
sure.
Some of them are put out to find a contractor to build them, and they will start construction. Them are waiting for an environmental approval. They're already funded, including the VCR trail and the Bankside trail. So got everything funded from I-95 all the way down the VCR trail to the train station down to the riverbank, and the bankside trail down to the bank bridge, all funded. Waiting. All of the background processes to finish before they can start the construction. One part of it is probably ready to go to tender. And then there's that, but there's the Dixon Connector Trail that's funded. Then there's all the way down about to Tidewater Trail. Path on the one side is already funded. Way down sidewalk on the other side. So there's the whole that's already funded, and every year we look for funding for those. Program. Second year. And very quickly. And the jurisdictions each apply every year. Another piece of sidewalk, another piece of shared use path. And they often get funded. What's it got $3 million grants to do those? And they've built sections already of sidewalk shared use path with Stafford gets an automatic amount of money in the transportation alternatives program because it's called the transportation management area, and those funds are allocated on a they get some money every year to build another. They choose the project, the county chooses the project, second county. They tell the TAC program which project they want to fund this year, but it's automatic formula funding. It's automatically allocated by formula. The rest of the TAC funding is a competitive. But every cycle we can put something. And last cycle, small $16 million worth of each one is at a different degree of funding. Occasionally a developer will give the funds to build a section of the shared use path, sidewalk or something as part of the deal for their zoning they're putting in. Yeah. Now the CTAC reduction fund. Many of those FAMPO decided to set aside for project funding, and it was set aside there's a whole industry of little grants that we constantly work on to try and build.
Is that the shared use path funded at Levels and Harrison Road? Is that?
So it's on the map there.
Yeah.
Proper,
There's a proper and sponsored.
but there's a funding to connect, I guess, from that intersection to the VCR trail.
And I think they also have another TAP application further up, and combined with the developer doing projects, it tends to be stitched together like.
Yeah.
I think that intersection is funded too, right?
And we have 5 new bus shelters that are funded as well that are.
Lena, could you zoom back out again
Oh.
a little bit? Because when your last thing on the slide that this includes is where's the gap? So if you zoom out even further, look at the connection between Northern Stafford and Southern Stafford. That looks like a gap.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing I was gonna question too, back on over to the other part when you had the legend showing, there was an area called the urbanized area. If you go back to that and show that.
It's pretty, it's on, it's just very faint. You're not showing it well on the screen. You can see the really light pink. Versus the, right here, maybe, you can see that. I should,
The long-term plan to connect Stafford into West Fredericksburg, the Mine Road extension.
Because I had looked at the urbanized area, prior to the meeting, and the thing that I noticed was that huge gap in the middle, which kind of, I wasn't sure exactly how it had been determined that, where the urbanized areas were.
So the urbanized area is actually a federal designation based on population and square footage of rooftops. And the feds can actually change how that's determined between census. But yeah, every 10 years that's updated. Often it has bigger implications because it actually defines the NPO, so that, for example, at New Post, if ever the development jumps onto the other side in Caroline County is automatically added in NPO. You can't actually kind of opt into a NPO from other areas. It's not done as much here in this NPO, but that's a possibility. But for this it's basically just the Fed saying, this is the urbanized area. In fact, you can actually be defined in an urbanized area and yet still be defined as a rural area for other federal things. So this is more of a kind of I don't want to completely say bureaucratic, but more of a label classification that the feds use with jurisdictions.
Does it include just current existing population or where development?
It's only existing. So you have to have the population each in those block groups, as well as it does account for say industrial, where you'll have heavy built up where there's nobody living, but there's rooftops. So it does factor that in. So as stuff is being built up Route 1, you'll eventually see the gap between North Stafford and Fredericks come aligned. And at that point in time, we'll be looking at something more like Petersburg and Richmond, where they are actually combined, where you would actually have the option for jurisdictions to basically choose their MPO. So, do you want to join Washington, which is actually an option that North Stafford declined. They decided to be in Fredericksburg than that, but yes.
Projects and the pipeline that will, I believe, bridge that gap. I mentioned the Mine Road extension. That's one of the projects which county, I think, is hoping that a developer of that land will contribute forward. So the land is already set aside. If you look in their development plans, they have indicated that that's going to be a roadway. And then that connects Courthouse Road connects across into
Sonaport Parkway.
and then Centerport Parkway, the dog's leg that goes out to I-95, and at the point of that dog's leg, Stafford County has designed a new roadway to carry on straight down to connect to Enon Road.
Right.
And then Enon Road connects through to,
Plus
well, yes, but ultimately to Plantation Drive.
right.
And when that is finished, I'm assuming, like about everywhere, is that will spur development either side of that road. That happens. Ops, services connecting South Stafford, and that's probably going to trigger the Census Bureau to declare the area as urbanized in between. Then mean it's all one urbanized area. But as John said, that then uses continuous urbanized area from Washington, D.C., urban edge with Baltimore, all the way to southern spots of Maine. You then have to decide, as John said, whether or not we're going to just join the Washington MPO or whether we're retain our independence. But if we do that, we do retain our independence, because our urbanized area will then become completed using both North Stafford and Southern Stafford, Fredericksburg, and Swansea. Our formula funding allocated by the federal government will increase substantially. That will have closed, and at the moment they count the two separately. Don't have in the bottom urbanized area more than the required 200,000. But if you connect North and South Stafford, then we punch through that number quite easily, and we then get a much bigger cut of federal funds for transportation.
Come on, Stafford, get together.
Yeah.
Go ahead and develop it, so we can get there. I think that's what you have here.
With the data center proposed, developer is profiting right away for the Mine Road extension and to build 2 lanes of it. But I have to look at the details of the proffers to see if there's loopholes in it. Since they've been deliberately writing loopholes in the proffer so they don't have to deliver what they promised they're gonna do. And I did call them just 2 weeks ago. Called them with a connection to a road over in Garrisonville. The way they wrote the proffer, it had loopholes in it, and it's not gonna happen connection.
Yeah, it was gonna be parallel to 610, but that's, like you said, one, we won't see it probably. Okay.
So I think this is a lot of good discussion, and that leads great into this last final slide, which is just that we're doing a big push to have some public workshops about this plan and to have a public survey go out for this plan, where we can hear more input just like this from the public more broadly. Where is there a need for this type of infrastructure, and what ideas are there for, you know, how we address that need, even just really trying to capture all the things, and promote the plan generally, educate the people about it. Yeah, all that good stuff. So this is just a flyer for the 3 workshops we're going to do, one in each locality of FAMPO. All of them are on a Wednesday evening from 4 to 7 p.m. And they're drop-in style. None of them conflict with the CTAC meeting. But yeah, they're drop-in kind of open house style with some hands-on ways to get engagement with the public. We'll have paper copies of the surveys there. Yeah, but please, and they're all in library meeting rooms. So Fredericksburg branch, Porter branch up in Northern Stafford, and then Spotsylvania's the Salem Church Library. So please come. We invite you to come out to one of these, take our survey once it's open, which will be after the policy committee meeting this month, and share this with your networks, and anyone who you think might be interested. Let them know that they're invited to come out to take the public survey. If you are looking for maybe materials that you can distribute and share, Eugene's been posting a lot of great stuff on social media, so I would look there. But we'll keep pushing stuff out probably about it. Anyway, any questions or comments? I'll take.
Yeah, the map is, incredible to look at. And, obviously, it gets more involved and more complex thanks to you. And that's
Thank you. That's all from me.
going on to 7D from Dr. Rideout, the River Crossing draft report and presentation.
All right. Well, so next slide. So as I alluded to in our last meeting, the consultants have dropped the final report. We are currently in the middle of public comment. So this is basically rounding up the end of the process. So again, we're at the end. Next slide. In this is a 740-page document. Since we provided it last time, I assume that everybody's read it and taken notes, highlighted all the typos. Thank you, Rupert. But within that is the core analysis of the project, its findings and the recommendations from Michael Baker International. It includes the planning environmental linkages documentation, traffic analysis, tables and maps. All the materials that you've seen over the last, I believe, close to 2 years now are included. Agency coordinations, like the Department of Natural Resources reached out, what their comments, concerns, what potential species should be looked at for the next stages. A lot of that kind of materials. We've included all the policy committee and public meeting materials, so you can actually go back and see how the slides and everything have changed throughout. Our public engagement, which is the largest part of the document. It's over 200 pages of every single comment that we've received, either through the survey, through emails, through handwritten comments. We've included those, and actually comments that we are still bringing in, since we're open public, are basically going to be stapled onto those or added digitally in that, as well as we also documented press coverage. So this is for that, if and when this goes on to future activities, the feds say, what did you do to get the word out to the public to inform? We can say, look, we've kept all the newspaper clippings, so to speak, throughout the process. So within this 700-page thing, there's really no new information or analysis that's been done since this committee has been seen it, or the PC, or any of the local boards. So this is basically wrapping up all the work that was done through, I would say, June, September-ish, when the local, the locals adopted in June. So, so all of that and the information prior to that. So this is basically memorializing all that information. Next slide. So again, with this core findings, what it's looking at is the recommendations going forward that are memorialized is that option D is a non-viable option. So that is going to be not recommended to advance from the NEPA. Options A, B1, B2, and C, with C being the locally preferred alternative, as well as a no build would advance to the next stage. In addition, that would also include any other options. So a item that hasn't been explored could still be explored in the NEPA. It doesn't rule anything out except for not using Green Bank Road as the primary avenue of coming down to cross the river. And so we are memorializing that within the option C, as well as the CTAC recommendations with its modified C option as well, saying that that was the group's recommended option, and that one could advance in the NEPA stage as well. Next slide. So where does this project stand? At this time, NBI has produced all the deliverables pending the final comments and revisions as requested, defined in their task order. So they've produced the final draft river crossing document. They have produced final draft concept drawings for the preferred alternative, as well as provided the cost estimates of the preferred alternative well using their QT2 tool. What has already been endorsed is the option C. The localities, the city of Fredericksburg and Stafford County has adopted it. The FAMPO long range plan, we have that directive going to it. And so we're good. So we're going to have that final document, tables and materials. What is not being adopted by the policy committee is the draft and final concept drawings for the alternative, just because you generally do not do those drawings. You don't adopt those, at least not at this stage, because we're still considering many other alternatives, nor do we endorse or adopt a cost estimate, because that is a very fluid thing that changes very rapidly. So what's next is we are hopefully going to be using option C as the locally preferred corridor. And that's going to be the process as now that we have an agreed upon line that we can continue for any funding and present to any groups moving forward. NEPA revisits all the alternatives other than option D, including options that haven't been considered. So as we move forward, you're probably going to see options A, B, C, D, well, not D, A, B, C, E, F, G, H as we move forward. So that's not unusual, but it's going to start getting into a lot more granular detail where you're actually with the NEPA process, you have boots on the ground doing their environmental surveys and historical research on those. So that's where we stand. Next slide, the last one. We do have updated cost estimates. This is one of the deliverables provided by Michael Baker, but as the both the draft drawings and cost estimates, we've been getting VDOT's feedback from the jurisdiction as well. So this is actually a constantly fluid document right now. So it's the preferred alternative. It does have contingencies built in. It's in $2025. And again, these will these estimates will evolve, but keep in mind right now is probably one of the most volatile cost estimate time periods. We're seeing kind of cost estimates going every which direction, mostly up though. But it's not unusual to see, projects that are $2 million come back in as $22 million, or a project that was initially done in for 2 lanes of I-95 go from $50 million to scale it back down to 1 lane, and then it still balloons to $150 million. So this is one of the reasons why you don't endorse a cost estimate, because these basically change with the market rate. So, but we wanted you to have that information right now so you have an idea. But this is not also adopted because you don't take cost into consideration with this level of the planning, particularly when you're finding your alternatives, particularly with the feds and the NEPA process. You have to find the one with the least impact, and money isn't considered to be one of those items that you consider.
Are they gonna be doing design with this also?
No, we're going to get a conceptual sketch, which will kind of lay out. They're giving us planning level costs so that they have more. Now that we know that we have 1 line, they're doing a deeper dive into the costs on it rather than just applying a line tool, but they're not going into any of the engineering for this.
See, I have preferred the side of the bridge that the trail should go on. As there's a prehistoric Native American fish trap in the river. If we put it on the east side, you'll be able to see the trap. If you put it on the west side, you won't.
Right now, I think the way that the sketch is designed is that the trail is on the east side. So it's going to follow where the existing trail is without forcing a crossover to go to the west.
So does this option C include just one crossing coming into Central Park?
Correct, yes.
And not connect to Route 3 West?
Right now, correct, yes.
I noticed that it did say on that it has the approval from the city of Fredericksburg and Stafford County, not have the approval from Spotsylvania.
Because they ultimately chose to not be involved in that at that point. They wanted something else to be done, but since the scope of the project just involved the city and Stafford County from the initial things, that's the reason that
At the next step, if it's choose to go forward with the NEPA analysis, you can actually then consider additional routes. If you want to say alternatives that go south into Spotsylvania County directly as an alternative or additional connections. So. I think that's the last one. This is one more summary slide. There you go.
All
right.
16 votes.
So again, we're open to public comment, particularly since you've chosen the January 7th. There's no action required tonight by the CTAC. Our public comment ends on the 19th. This is about the most that FAMPO staff will ever kind of lean on to making, statement. But we strongly recommend that CTAC members submit their comments in writing or best communication methods during this time. So please don't wait until January 1st to send it and be included. This is the time that you definitely should be submitting a public comment. We do have a public hearing at the next scheduled PC meeting, so that's next Monday, the 17th. And the earliest that the PC would take action would be January 12th of next year. So again, all the draft materials have been submitted to both VDOTs and the jurisdictions, including Spotsylvania. So they received the materials at the same time Stafford and the city did for technical review, and the comments have been forwarded to NBI, and they have been incorporating those comments and technical concerns.
Like to point out that the FAMPO staff strongly recommend that CTAC members submit comments in writing, et cetera. Predominantly, the only information that regarded any of the input that was provided to the policy board by CTAC is included in the newspaper, other reporting that was done in meetings and so forth. As far as the actual material presentations that CTAC had made, that information was not there. So if you do not mind the presentations that CTAC did make, I will include in the current public comment that's going out regarding this draft report. I think it's important because you don't get the drift reading through the draft report exactly why the policy board came up with their particular decision. If you look through the materials, you don't understand that ultimately, for example, the city of Fredericksburg determined that it was going to be an area that was not going to be suitable for data center construction. So their C route happened to go right through that particular space. And also the Stafford County essentially wanted to state infrastructure, which is why South Virginia Parkway wound up being used. The information that CTAC had provided to them, I have no idea whether it actually had any impact on their decision or not. I think it's important for us to let the process move forward with whatever CTAC's input was. That sound all right? Just polling you folks. Thank you. Any other discussion here? Thank you, Dr. Rada. All right, for the next section 7E, I have a brief little presentation, and it's been, I want to ask if you want me to kind of step aside as chairman for this particular presentation. And someone will share at that point. Otherwise, again, it's not going to be very lengthy or anything. I'm not really going to be asking anything of you, but if you want me to step aside.
It doesn't bother me. Go ahead.
I don't know what the purpose would be.
Okay, thank you. Okay, very quickly, regarding the level of service modeling that was done for the river crossing options, ultimately option C was chosen, and I wanted to compare that to what the modeling was for the no build option. So we want to move on to the next slide. All right, the bubble charts that you see for the no build scenario are there. Then over on the right, what I have done is I've taken the information that was provided with actually seconds of delay that were recorded for both the no build option and the option C crossing at the 25 different intersections that were modeled. And so this is basically what the bubble map was for. If we go on to the next slide, these are the bubbles that were for the option C crossing. And Lita, I'm not sure if you can or not. Can you somehow just kind of zoom in over on the tables on the right? Because I want to show you kind of what was done. Okay, so again, there are the different numbers of sections that were included. And what I did here at the very top for intersections 1 through 13 is I kind of grouped them together. 1 through 8 winds up being the ones that were along Route 17. 10 through 13 are the ones that are along US Route 1. And if you look over on the far right column, I have the percentage of either increase or decrease in the delays for those particular intersections. If you can just scroll down now towards the bottom, when you, not the, yeah, just the color parts above that, thanks. The comparisons between, for number 14 down through 24, those are the intersections that are along Fall Hill, the ones that are in the Central Park, Celebrate South area. Those are the ones that are in from 16 to 21. And the ones that are along Route 3 are the 22 to 24. If you look over on the far right column at those percentages of increases and decreases, you can see that essentially there's not very much of a change except for in number 16, which is not a surprise at all, that at the intersection of Caldy, Silver Parkway, and Gordon Shelton, that there will be a much greater amount of congestion at that point, which causes a tremendous increase in the slowdown of passing through that intersection. So what this basically, now, if you look at the upper areas where we had large improvements versus the ones that are at the southern part or the lower part of the chart, where there's really no real improvements, we can move on to the next slide, and I just summarized it. And then next slide. Yeah. No problem. All right, this is a comparison of the bubble charts, and you can kind of see, and it's based upon the data that was in the table. So the deduction that I was able to follow is that along Route 17 and along Route 1, very visible reductions in the delay along those intersections when compared option C to the no bill. However, down in the southern part along Central Park and Celebrate South and even along Route 3, essentially there was no real improvement, and in some instances longer delays in those areas. So the conclusion that I drew is, looking at this kind of data, there is no benefit in the southern part of having a bridge with option C or having no bridge built at all. And that's the conclusion that I kind of try to draw from this. If you can go on to the next slide, please. So with MBI's final route basically still connecting right there at Haven Terrace, those intersections that you see there kind of highlighted in red and so forth are the ones that essentially have no improvement, whether there was a bridge or not. And then that further down along Route 3, the same kind of instances. So one of the reasons CTAC originally included the branch that came off of that scene was because of the fact that we wanted to give choices to the drivers so that we wouldn't potentially have this. Now, obviously, brand new modeling would have to be done, the studying would have to be done, and so forth. But at this particular juncture, the data basically shows that there's no real benefit to Spotsylvania County, and actually not much of a benefit as far as the delays at these intersections for the city of Fredericksburg as well. Okay, next slide, please. So there's the analysis that I said, and this is again online for everyone to kind of look at. I do note that at the June policy meeting, option C, when it was adopted, there was verbal support from the members towards future efforts to provide benefit to Spotsylvania, such as a potential branch. And this analysis kind of identifies that there's some data that actually supports that we potentially should do something additionally in the future. Okay, next slide. And the recommendation, if we ever were to make one, would be that there should be a study that gets created. And again, it only takes two different jurisdictions to create a study, just like the city of Fredericksburg and Stafford did for the current river crossing project. You should consider that maybe two jurisdictions, maybe even three, that would all benefit, would potentially consider requesting some research. And if you go on to the next slide. Everything began with these two letters, one from the city and one from Stafford County. Two letters asking FAMPO to begin doing research, which resulted in the current study. And hopefully moving forward with the study that had some success. But again, you should consider that maybe something else should be done as well. That's all I got. If you guys want to discuss anything. Questions for me? Just go right ahead.
I think connection from I-95 to the Harrison Road would probably be more effective. Route 3 traffic. To stop the left turn lanes going on Salem Church Road. From Salem Church to 95 would traffic would be reduced.
Those additional modular runs that the FAMPO board requested are included in the draft report. That is actually modeled in. They just didn't do the same level of interface.
They could connect to the mall in the back way. That would help tremendously with left turn.
As you can see that in the study, it's still, of course, add on that extra of that option, and it does show a significant reduction in the traffic volume. Also, there is additional information on traffic volume on 95 down Route 3 to about Bragg Road. Does actually reduce on Route Bragg Road to Salem Church Road, it increases. Because what's happening is that if you build the bridge, traffic will come across the bridge, go down Bragg Road, up Route 3, Church Road, heading south. That traffic right now is coming off at Route 3. Option. Intersection. Harrison is returned down the river crossing. So what happens is the traffic that wants to get Pennsylvania south of not as far down as exit 6. It comes off now at Route 3, goes down Salem Church. So if you build a route, some of that traffic will come down across the bridge, go down Bragg Road, up Route 3, down Salem Church Road, and it's that traffic which will no longer be traveled. Bragg Road. First section of Route 3. Reduction in traffic.
That's the busiest section too.
Yeah, that's the section that sees the reduction, but then there is an increase, not flat. There's actually an increase with Bragg Road and Salem Church. But they're coming across bridge, taking that.
Okay. I mean, that was actually something that was kind of very much focused on, because I think in the earlier dialogue, particularly from members of Spotsylvania, was a very large concern of the river crossings impact on deteriorating the conditions on Route 3. And that's the reason why they did the traffic analysis basically so far out onto Route 3, because it was saying, and this was something that some of the models kind of showed earlier, and also was kind of known with the Harrison Road interchange, was that the river crossing coming into Central Park, that's the key part, was very much kind of a net neutral for most of the Route 3 traffic, because you weren't having a lot of folks from Western Stafford coming Western Stafford going out to Salem Church Road and beyond. You're having 95 or Route 1 coming down, taking Route 3 and then going further down. So it's going to not impact those traffic trips as much. The number of trips that were basically bleeding off into Central Park, and they did do the analysis, is that most of the traffic, as soon as it hits Central Park, stays in Central Park. That is what's driving the trips, particularly made in spots of, or sorry, in Southern Stafford that are coming either down Route 1 or using 95 as an alternative. That's the reason why you see the reductions heavily on either 17, which you still have to kind of use 17, but further west to access the river crossing, but it completely drops off because those folks aren't coming down Route 1 and crossing that, particularly through the hospital, like Route 1 in the city and the hospital area, which is where you're seeing folks cut through. If you watch folks on Fall Hill, you know folks are trying to find every which way to go through the neighborhoods there. It's interesting enough, particularly on the Route 17, Route 1 intersection, that intersection still remains kind of bright red. But if you take that trip enough, you know that the folks who are coming eastbound or southbound on 17, the right turn lane onto Route 1 is never the issue. If it is, it's rare. It's the folks either trying to cross Butler or making left turns where it's always backed up. And while there is improvement to that intersection because it's taking the traffic down, because this river crossing isn't directly connecting the folks or addressing any type of trip that those folks are waiting to go straight onto Butler or left onto Route 1, you see very little reduction. So if you go into the like intersection analysis, because they have a deeper dive, you can see the turning movements for each one, that the river crossing doesn't help with those because it's going in the opposite direction. So that's why it is. And that probably needs a different treatment at that intersection to make the improvement. But even then, it's very hard to get improvements across multiple intersections within a corridor that showed that much of a traffic reduction because it's just removing Route 1 and folks coming through the hospital, and to a lesser extent, immediately on Route 3 at 95 to, as Ian said, about Bragg Road, but then of course the traffic patterns started changing in afterwards.
Yeah, regarding those intersections like the Route 17 and Route 1, if the option C bridge is built, it improves about 17%. There's a reduction in delay from 130 to 115 sections. It's still heavy red and very large, still quite a delay, but it's still improving 17.
Is that during peak time?
Yep, PM peak, always PM peak study.
And then the Route 3 at Salem Church is essentially the same. It winds up being 2.4% different from actually 41 seconds to 42 seconds if the bridge is built. And then actually they had done the Salem Church at Harrison Road intersection as well. And if the option C versus the no build winds up reducing it 2.8%, basically just going from 78 to 76 seconds. So quite a delay.
The question, and pardon me if I'm just dense. Voted on the option it's now where it is now. Is this just sort of informational only after the fact, or is there
It is available for.
No. I mean, like the purpose of you presenting this information, because I feel like you gave us parts of this before, but like here we are now post report. Like, is this just a CTAC FYI, or is like there's sort of like something we should be acting on or considering post presentation?
Well,
again, if I'm dense, please
no,
tell me that.
No, at the policy board meeting Wednesday for the option C corridor,
Sure.
there was verbal support for the members from left and right.
Right.
To say, hey, yeah, we know that we need to do something else that's going to be providing a greater benefit, specifically at that time to Spotsylvania County, because the reason that Spotsy didn't really necessarily show the level of support that the city and Stafford did, because they didn't necessarily see any kind of benefit. So the LF shows you that whether you build a bridge or not in those areas that they were concerned about, there's not much of a difference.
No, I got that. I'm just curious why we're talking tonight.
It's already been voted on.
It's already been voted on, however, since the board members did say that they wanted to show some support for doing something else. This is to provide the information why, data literally that says you want to do something else. Well, we originally said that, that branch that was going to come off should be done sooner than later.
Right.
So they can, if they did a study based upon 2 jurisdictions, send a letter.
Yeah.
Couldn't 2 jurisdictions now send a letter asking for research to be done
Well,
about this additional branch?
Didn't we put that branch in our comprehensive plan?
Yes, we put it in our comprehensive
Yeah.
plan, but that is not, that's
Yeah.
not in their comprehensive,
Right,
that's an hour.
right.
Yes.
But all that information.
But we can't build a bridge across.
Sorry.
Well, Stafford was in theirs, yeah.
Yeah, it would involve Stafford County having to join in.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm just saying that at the meeting, they actually voiced that support. But nothing's been done since that June meeting to try to act on that verbal support.
That corridor that we were asking for, Spotsylvania already owns 2/3 of the land from Route 3 all the way to the river. It's what, 3/4 of a mile? Yeah. They already own 2/3 of that land already, that they wouldn't even have to buy to get down to the river to cross right over to Stafford. That's one of the reasons why we like that corridor, and we feel like if we don't do something with that now, look what's happened to all the other property. Everywhere you want to build a road, look at the city of Fredericksburg, all those corridors, and every time you turn around, Silver wants to put something where you wanted to have the road. So we would like to reserve that corridor to be able to put it. Was, since the county owns most of it, we can reserve that part of it at least.
Rupert had a question.
Although I think with all this recent input that CTAC should go on record as opposing this project, opposing the river crossing, or if you want to say, go with the no build option, either way. So if anybody wants to make that motion, I'd be very happy to second it. Hearing none, we can move on.
Well, I mean, my point, I suppose, was how do we kind of light a fire to not just verbalize that they want to support.
I don't mind looking into the traffic counts and stuff, but I guess what I'm concerned with is when we were doing the river crossing study, the further west it was, the more trucks would use it. So what I don't want to see is a truck route dumping traffic on Celebrate Virginia. That's my concern.
Okay, I mean, the trucks essentially want to be able to get to 95. And if they find that they're blocked in one way, yeah, they're going to use a different route. I think this study originally that was done said that it was a very small percentage, like 2% or so, that was going to have trucks.
That's because it was close to 95, but the further you go out from 95 on Route 3, it's.
That included option D as well at that time.
Yeah, but D came out the same spot.
Just okay. If there's no more discussion, we can move on to staff reports.
Real quick, again, this is probably not old news now, but the Technical Advisory Committee has rescheduled their meeting for November 17th. It'll be held in the morning, and as well as the policy. So I don't have any new information there. And the next item would be the Policy Committee is also scheduled for later that evening at 6 p.m. on the 17th as well. So if you want to come join us in the morning and the afternoons and only squeeze in a couple hours of work in between, you're more than welcome to do a double header that day. But beyond that, I don't have any new activity on that level because you have seen most of the information. But I will note, if you want to have any more conversations with the policy committee, the hearing for the river crossing sin, as well as the consultants planning to attend as well. The other item on the staff appointments, I just want to make sure that you're all aware that all of our at-large CTAC members, such as Rupert, serve on 2-year terms. So we are actually going to be putting it onto the policy committee agenda for them to reappoint our at-large members. This will bring it into cadence with all of our jurisdiction appointed members, such as yourselves. Every year, we usually speak with each one of the jurisdictions through the administrative staff to basically confirm your appointment. So all other CTAC members are basically, you are appointed until you're removed. Or you just decide not to let us know that you're not appointing. But in any case, we actually let the jurisdictions know that you're currently, this is our appointed list if they want to confirm it, as well as we also provide attendance records too. So we actually keep track of that, and we normally consider if you're attending a little bit more than half the time, it's in good standings, but it's always good because we do have members that haven't showed in 2 years. And so sometimes we like to remind the jurisdictions to say, hey, the person you're appointing hasn't been here. But we reach out to that. And for the example of Caroline County, they've had multiple members that have never really shown up in the last few years, but they don't bother to reappoint. So we understand that they're not interested, but we just remind them that, hey, this is the attendance going through. But I do want to give at least a little bit of credit to Spotsylvania because they definitely had the highest average attendance for its members. So, as well as Al for basically attending, I think, every single meeting through term bus forum. So kudos there.
Like I said, I'm retired. So.
We're having good attendance and membership, so it's usually a good thing for us to brag about. So we do know that, and even our at-large members would let them know.
Times I wish I would.
But in any case, just want to let you know in case all of a sudden this is the time to reach out to your jurisdictions to remind them of how good a job you are, and that we do talk just to confirm the appointments, because there's often not unusual to have a little bit of January drama involving that. So other than that, I'll hand it back over for.
Okay. For number 9 on our agenda for member reports, if anyone has anything they'd like to add or anything they've been involved with, we'd love to hear it. Oh, board. Okay, then we have for number 10 on our agenda, the future items that we would include on our agendas. If anybody has it. Even more books, okay. We are up to adjourn.
This is Rupert, I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
The fight?
Good job, Mr. Chair.
No, they just met. They'll be meeting